Marcus graduated from college summa cum laude with a degree in civil engineering. His thesis project focused on designing affordable housing solutions for low-income families, directly inspired by his childhood experiences. Several major engineering firms offered him positions. But Marcus had different plans. Instead of accepting a high-paying corporate job immediately, Marcus decided to spend 2 years with a nonprofit organization that built infrastructure in underserved communities. His first assignment took him to rural areas where he helped design and construct water systems, bridges, and community centers. Sarah, now in her senior year of high school, had been accepted to several prestigious art schools. Her portfolio, which told the story of her family's journey through various mediums, had impressed admissions committees across the country. She was particularly excited about a program that combined fine arts with social justice advocacy. Gloria, now 50 years old, had been promoted to general manager of Mama's Kitchen. The restaurant had expanded to 2 locations, and the community fund she had helped establish was now a registered, nonprofit organization that assisted hundreds of families each year. Her story had inspired similar programs in other cities. On a warm spring morning, exactly 18 years after that fateful rainy night, Gloria was preparing for another busy day at the restaurant. She had no idea that this day would bring the most surprising turn in her already remarkable story. Sarah was at school taking her final exams, and Marcus was thousands of miles away working on a water purification project in a remote village. Keisha, now a successful elementary school teacher, was visiting with her own young daughter, bringing the next generation into their Sunday dinner tradition. At exactly 10 in the morning, Gloria heard an unusual sound outside the restaurant. The rhythmic thumping grew louder until it was unmistakable. A helicopter was landing in the parking lot of Mama's Kitchen. Customers pressed their faces against the windows, trying to see what was happening. Gloria stepped outside, shielding her eyes from the dust kicked up by the helicopter blades. A well-dressed man in his 50s emerged from the aircraft, followed by a woman carrying a briefcase and a camera crew. The man approached Gloria with a warm smile and asked if she was Gloria Washington. Confused but curious, Gloria confirmed her identity. The man introduced himself as Robert Chun, a successful businessman and philanthropist. He explained that he had been following her story for several years and had come to Mama's Kitchen with a very special purpose. Robert told Gloria that his own life had been shaped by acts of kindness from strangers when he was a young immigrant struggling to survive in America. A teacher had bought him lunch every day for 6 months, and a librarian had tutored him in English after hours. These experiences had motivated him to succeed and, more importantly, to give back to others. He had established a foundation that sought out people who demonstrated extraordinary compassion and community leadership, particularly those who had made significant sacrifices to help children. Gloria's story, he explained, exemplified everything his foundation hoped to encourage and support. The camera crew, Gloria learned, was documenting Robert's foundation work for a television special about everyday heroes. But they weren't there just to film. They had come to present Gloria with something that would change her life forever. Robert handed Gloria a check for $500,000, explaining that it was an unrestricted gift in recognition of her 18 years of service to her community and her children. The money could be used however she chose for her family, her education, the restaurant, or the community fund, but that wasn't all. Robert's foundation had also arranged for full college scholarships for both Marcus and Sarah to pursue any additional education they desired. Marcus could attend graduate school, and Sarah would have her undergraduate education fully funded. With money left over for art supplies and living expenses, Gloria stood in the parking lot, holding the check with trembling hands while the camera crew captured her reaction. Tears streamed down her face as she thought about how dramatically this gift would change not only her life but the lives of her children and countless others in her community. The customers and staff of Mama's Kitchen had gathered outside during the presentation, and they erupted in cheers and applause when they realized what was happening. Mr. Johnson, now in his 70s, wiped his eyes and declared that this was the proudest Moment in the restaurant's history. Robert explained that his foundation had been investigating Gloria's story for over a year. They had interviewed dozens of people whose lives had been touched by her kindness. From the children she had helped to the community members who had participated in her various charitable initiatives, the investigation had revealed that Gloria's act of kindness on that rainy night 18 years ago had created a ripple effect of compassion that extended far beyond what anyone had realized. The community fund had helped over 300 families, and many of the children who had been assisted had gone on to help others in their own communities. Marcus's engineering work with underserved populations had been directly inspired by his childhood experiences and his adoptive mother's example. Sarah's art advocacy work had raised awareness and funds for dozens of important causes. Even Kaisha's work as a teacher carried forward the values of compassion and service that Gloria had modeled. As the news of the foundation's gift spread throughout the neighborhood, people began arriving at Mama's Kitchen to congratulate Gloria. The parking lot filled with friends, customers, church members, and community leaders who had been part of their journey over the years. Marcus received a phone call from Sarah, who had heard about the helicopter landing from classmates who had seen it on social media. Within hours, he had arranged to fly home to be with his family for this incredible moment. The village where he had been working collected money to contribute to his travel expenses. Having been moved by the story of the woman who had raised such a dedicated young man, that evening, the entire community gathered at Mama's Kitchen for an impromptu celebration. Robert Chun and his foundation team stayed for the party, witnessing firsthand the tight-knit community that Gloria had helped foster over the years. Reverend Williams, now elderly but still passionate about his ministry, spoke about the biblical principle that kindness begets kindness. He reminded everyone that Gloria's story proved that small acts of compassion could grow into movements that change entire communities. Mrs. Patterson, the social worker who had helped with Marcus and Sarah's placement 18 years earlier, attended the celebration. She was now retired but continued to volunteer with child welfare organizations. She told the gathering that in her 40-year career, she had never seen a more beautiful example of how love and commitment could transform lives. The television special, featuring Gloria's story, aired 6 months later and reached millions of viewers nationwide. The program sparked similar gift-giving initiatives in other cities and inspired countless individuals to look for ways to help children. In their own communities, Gloria used a portion of the foundation gift to establish a scholarship fund, specifically for children who had aged out of foster care. She also expanded the community funds programs to include educational support and career training initiatives. Marcus returned from his nonprofit work and accepted a position with a firm that specialized in sustainable community development. He was able to negotiate a contract that allowed him to spend half his time on pro bono projects in underserved areas. He also began working toward a master's degree in urban planning. Sarah thrived in college, where her unique perspective as a former foster child who had experienced both trauma and tremendous love informed her artistic work. She began creating large-scale installations that told the stories of resilient families and communities. The scholarship money allowed her to study abroad for a semester, where she learned new artistic techniques and gained international perspective on issues of social justice. Her work began attracting attention from galleries and museums interested in socially conscious art. 5 years after the helicopter landed at Mama's Kitchen, Gloria was invited to speak at the White House during National Foster Care Month. She shared the stage with other advocates and spoke about the importance of community support for vulnerable children. In her speech, she emphasized that her story wasn't really about one person's kindness, but about the power of an entire community to rally around children in need. She credited the customers, staff, and neighbors of Mama's Kitchen with creating an environment where love and support could flourish. Marcus, now 28, had married his college sweetheart, an environmental scientist who shared his passion for community development. They were expecting their first child, and Gloria was thrilled about becoming a grandmother. Sarah, at 24, had graduated from art school and was pursuing a master's degree in art therapy. She planned to work with children who had experienced trauma. Using creative expression as a tool for healing and growth, the original Mama's Kitchen had become something of a landmark, with tour buses occasionally stopping to visit the restaurant that had sparked such an inspiring story. Despite the attention, the establishment maintained its character as a neighborhood gathering place. The adoption process proved to be more complicated and expensive than Gloria had initially imagined. As a single mother working as a waitress, she faced numerous obstacles that seemed designed to prevent families like hers from adopting. The legal fees alone were overwhelming, and the home study requirements meant she would need to find a larger apartment to accommodate 2 additional children, but Gloria was determined. She had watched Marcus and Sarah grow and thrive over the past 2 years, and she couldn't imagine her life without them. Every Sunday dinner at Mama's Kitchen had reinforced her belief that these children belonged in her family permanently. Fascia, now a senior in high school, was completely supportive of her mother's decision. She had grown to love Marcus and Sarah like younger siblings and was excited about the prospect of having them as permanent family members. She even got a part-time job at a local grocery store to help with the family's expenses during the adoption process. The community rallied around Gloria's adoption efforts in ways that surprised everyone. When word spread that she was trying to adopt Marcus and Sarah, donations began pouring in from unexpected sources. Regular customers at Mama's Kitchen organized fundraising events, and local churches collected money to help with legal fees. Mr. Johnson and the restaurant owner decided to give Gloria a raise and promote her to assistant manager, which came with better benefits and more stable hours. This promotion was crucial for meeting the financial requirements of the adoption process. Marcus and Sarah were overjoyed when Mrs. Patterson told them about Gloria's intention to adopt them. Marcus, now 12 years old, had grown into a serious young man who felt responsible for protecting his sister. The possibility of finally having a real family again seemed almost too good to be true. Sarah, at 8 years old, had blossomed into a confident and artistic child. Her drawings had evolved from simple crayon pictures to detailed portraits of the people she loved. Her latest masterpiece was a drawing of their future family, showing Gloria, Kaisha, Marcus, and herself standing in front of a house with a big front porch. The adoption proceedings took nearly a year to complete. There were home visits, psychological evaluations, financial assessments, and mountains of paperwork. Gloria often felt overwhelmed by the bureaucracy, but she persevered, knowing that Marcus and Sarah were worth every challenge during this waiting period. The children spent more and more time at Gloria's apartment. What started as weekend visits gradually extended to school nights and entire weeks. They helped with chores, did homework at the kitchen table, and slowly began to feel like a real family. Marcus excelled academically throughout this period. He was now in 7th grade and had been accepted into his school's advanced mathematics program. His dream of becoming an engineer seemed more achievable with each passing semester. Gloria made sure he had access to tutoring and educational resources that would help him succeed. Sarah had discovered a talent for writing to complement her artistic abilities. Her teachers were impressed by her creative stories and her ability to express complex emotions through both words and pictures. Gloria enrolled her in an after-school art program that helped nurture her talents. The day the adoption was finalized was one of the most emotional in Gloria's life. Standing in the courthouse with Marcus and Sarah by her side, she officially became their mother. The judge, who had been moved by their story throughout the proceedings, told the children how lucky they were to have someone who loved them so much. That evening, the entire community celebrated at Mama's Kitchen. Mr. Johnson closed the restaurant early and hosted a party for the newly formed Washington family. Customers, neighbors, church members, and friends filled every table. Sharing in the joy of this special occasion, Reverend Williams blessed the family and spoke about how Gloria's act of kindness on that rainy night had grown into something beautiful and lasting. He reminded everyone that small acts of compassion could have far-reaching consequences that we might never fully understand. As the years passed, the Washington family settled into a comfortable routine. Gloria continued working at Mama's Kitchen, but her role had evolved beyond just being a waitress. She had become a community leader, organizing charitable events and helping other families in need. Marcus thrived in high school, maintaining excellent grades while participating in the robotics club and volunteering at a local community center. His goal of becoming an engineer remained constant, and he began researching colleges that offered strong engineering programs. Sarah developed into a talented young artist and writer. Her work was featured in school exhibitions, and she won several local contests for her creative writing. She also inherited her adoptive mother's compassionate nature, often using her art to raise awareness for various charitable causes. Kaisha graduated from high school and received a scholarship to attend the state university, where she majored in elementary education. Even while away at college, she remained close to her family and came home regularly to help with Marcus and Sarah's activities. The Sunday dinners at Mama's Kitchen continued to be a family tradition. What had started as a way to provide meals for two hungry children had evolved into a weekly gathering that brought together an extended family of friends, neighbors, and community members. During Marcus's junior year of high school, something unexpected happened that would test the family's resilience. Gloria was diagnosed with breast cancer. The news came as a shock to everyone, and suddenly the family that had overcome so many challenges faced their biggest obstacle yet. Marcus, now 17 years old, immediately stepped up to help care for his mother and support his sister. He took on additional responsibilities at home while maintaining his academic performance and preparing for college applications. His maturity and leadership during this difficult time amazed everyone who knew him. Sarah, at 15, channeled her emotions into her art and writing. She created a series of paintings depicting strength and hope and wrote poetry about family and perseverance. Her creative work became a source of comfort not only for herself but for her entire family, the community that had supported Gloria's adoption efforts years earlier once again rallied around the Washington family. Customers at Mama's Kitchen organized meal trains, and local churches provided transportation to medical appointments. The love and support that poured in during Gloria's illness reminded everyone of the power of community. Gloria's treatment was successful, and after several months of chemotherapy and radiation, her doctors declared her cancer-free. The experience had brought the family even closer together and reinforced their appreciation for the life they had built together. As Marcus's senior year began, college acceptance letters started arriving. He had been accepted to several prestigious engineering programs, including some with full scholarships. The boy who had once been sleeping in abandoned buildings was now being courted by top universities across the country. The decision of which college to attend was difficult. Marcus wanted to stay close to home to help with family responsibilities, but Gloria insisted that he choose the program that would best serve his future goals. After much discussion, he decided to attend a respected state university about 3 hours away that offered both an excellent engineering program and the opportunity to come home frequently. Sarah was also preparing for her own transition. As a high school sophomore, she was already being recognized for her artistic talents and was considering various paths for her future education. She was particularly interested in programs that combined art with social justice. Inspired by her family's story and her mother's community work, throughout these years, Gloria often reflected on that rainy night when two scared children had walked into Mama's Kitchen. What had started as a simple act of kindness had grown into something she could never have imagined. She had gained not only two children but also a deeper sense of purpose and connection to her community. The restaurant had also evolved during this time. The fund that Mr. Johnson had established to help children in need had grown significantly, and Mama's Kitchen had become known throughout the city as a place where families could find not only good food, but also genuine care and support. Marcus's graduation from high school was a momentous occasion. As valedictorian of his class, he gave a speech about perseverance, family, and the power of kindness. He spoke about a waitress who had seen two hungry children and chose to act with compassion rather than indifference. In the audience, Gloria wiped away tears of pride as she listened to the young man she had raised speak about his dreams and aspirations. The scared 10-year-old boy who had asked for shelter from the rain had become a confident, intelligent, and compassionate young adult. Sarah also thrived during her high school years. Her artwork was featured in regional exhibitions, and her writing appeared in several youth publications. She began using her talents to advocate for children in foster care, creating awareness campaigns and organizing fundraising events. As Marcus prepared to leave for college, the family spent their last summer together visiting the places that had been important in their journey. They went back to the group home where Marcus and Sarah had lived, now to volunteer and share their story with current residents. They visited the courthouse where the adoption had been. The rain drummed against the windows of Mama's Kitchen, a small diner tucked away in the heart of downtown Memphis. It was the kind of place where the coffee was always hot. The pie was homemade, and everyone knew your name after the second visit. For 32-year-old Gloria Washington, this little restaurant had been her second home for the past 8 years. Gloria moved between the tables with practiced ease, her worn sneakers silent on the checkered linoleum floor. She had that special gift that made every customer feel like they were the most important person in the room. Her warm smile could brighten even the gloomiest day, and her laugh was infectious enough to make strangers feel like old friends. It was a Tuesday evening in March when everything changed. The dinner rush had died down, leaving only a few regulars nursing their coffee and sharing stories about their day. Gloria was wiping down the counter when the bell above the door chimed, announcing new customers. 2 children walked in, soaked from the rain. The older one, a boy who couldn't have been more than 10, held the hand of his little sister, who looked about 6 years old. Their clothes were too big for their small frames, clearly hand-me-downs that had seen better days. The boy's shoes had holes in them, and the girl's jacket was torn at the sleeve. Gloria's heart immediately went out to them. She had seen many people struggle in her neighborhood, but there was something particularly heartbreaking about these 2 children standing in the doorway, dripping wet and looking lost. The boy, who introduced himself as Marcus, approached the counter with his sister Sarah clinging to his side. His voice was barely above a whisper when he asked if they could sit down for a while to get out of the rain. Gloria noticed how he tried to stand tall, attempting to appear older and more responsible than his years allowed. Without hesitation, Gloria led them to a booth near the back of the restaurant. She grabbed some clean towels from behind the counter and helped them dry off. Sarah's teeth were chattering from the cold, and Marcus kept glancing toward the door as if expecting someone to come looking for them. As Gloria sat down across from them, she gently asked where their parents were. The story that unfolded broke her heart into a million pieces. Marcus explained that their mother had passed away 6 months ago from cancer, and their father had left when Sarah was just a baby. They had been staying with their elderly grandmother, but she had died just 2 weeks earlier, with no other family to take them in. The children had been placed in separate foster homes. Marcus told Gloria how he couldn't bear to be apart from his sister, so they had run away 3 days ago. They had been sleeping in an abandoned building, surviving on scraps they could find. Sarah, who had been quiet throughout her brother's explanation, finally spoke up in a tiny voice. She was hungry, she said, and her tummy hurt. Gloria felt tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at these 2 brave children who had been through more hardship than most adults could handle. Without thinking twice, Gloria headed to the kitchen. She knew the restaurant's policy about giving away free food, and she also knew that her paycheck was already stretched thin. She was a single mother herself, working double shifts to support her own teenage daughter, Keisha, who was a junior in high school, but looking at Marcus and Sarah, cold and hungry in that booth, Gloria couldn't bring herself to care about policies or her tight budget. She prepared 2 plates of the restaurant's famous fried chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and cornbread. She also poured 2 tall glasses of milk and grabbed a couple of chocolate chip cookies from the dessert case. When she returned to the table with the feast, both children's eyes widened in disbelief. Marcus asked if they had enough money to pay for all of this food. Gloria simply smiled and told them it was on the house. She sat with them while they ate, listening to their stories and learning more about their lives. Marcus was in 4th grade and loved math. He dreamed of becoming an engineer someday so he could build bridges and help people. Sarah was in 1st grade and loved to draw. Her artwork, she proudly told Gloria, was always hung up on the refrigerator at their grandmother's house. As they talked, Gloria learned that both children were excellent students despite everything they had been through. Marcus had been helping his sister with her homework every night, and they had both been attending school regularly until their grandmother's death. The other customers and staff at Mama's Kitchen watched in admiration as Gloria treated these children with such kindness. Her boss, Mr. Johnson, was initially concerned about the restaurant's liability and policies, but even his stern exterior softened when he saw the genuine need of these two young souls. When it came time to close the restaurant, Gloria faced a dilemma. She couldn't let these children go back to sleeping on the streets, but she also couldn't take them home without proper authorization. The legal complications could be severe, and she had her own daughter to think about. Instead, Gloria made some phone calls. She contacted a friend who worked for social services and explained the situation. She also called her pastor, Reverend Williams, who had connections throughout the community and might be able to help find a solution while waiting for help to arrive. Gloria sat with Marcus and Sarah, teaching them a card game her grandmother had taught her years ago. She could see the exhaustion in their eyes, but also a glimmer of hope that hadn't been there when they first walked through the door. Reverend Williams arrived first, followed shortly by Gloria's friend from social services, Mrs. Patterson. After much discussion and several phone calls, they were able to arrange temporary emergency placement for the children at a group home that specialized in keeping siblings together. Before the children left with Mrs. Patterson, Gloria made them a promise that would change all of their lives forever. She told them that as long as she worked at Mama's Kitchen, they would always have a place to come for a meal. She gave Marcus her phone number and told him to call if they ever needed anything. Marcus, trying hard to be strong, finally broke down and hugged Gloria tightly. Through his tears, he thanked her for treating them like family when they had nowhere else to turn. Sarah, clutching a stuffed animal that one of the other waitresses had given her, whispered that Gloria was like an angel. As Gloria watched the social worker's car disappear into the rainy night, she had no idea that this encounter would set in motion a chain of events that would span nearly 2 decades. She simply knew that she had done what felt right in her heart. The next morning, Gloria arrived at work to find that word had spread throughout the neighborhood about what had happened the night before. Customers who had witnessed her kindness came in specifically to thank her and to ask about the children. Some brought donations of clothes and toys, hoping they might reach Marcus and Sarah. Mr. Johnson, who had initially been worried about the restaurant's policies, pulled Gloria aside during her break. Instead of the lecture she expected, he told her how proud he was to have her as an employee. He had spoken with the owner overnight, and they had decided to establish a fund to help local children in need over the following weeks. Gloria stayed in touch with Marcus and Sarah through Mrs. Patterson. The children were adjusting well to their new temporary placement, and the group home staff were amazed by their resilience and intelligence. Marcus continued to excel in school, and Sarah's drawings now covered the walls of their new bedroom. True to her word, Gloria arranged for the children to come to Mama's Kitchen every Sunday for dinner. These weekly visits became the highlight of everyone's week. The regular customers looked forward to seeing Marcus and Sarah, and the children began to think of the restaurant as their extended family during these Sunday dinners. Gloria learned more about the children's dreams and aspirations. Marcus talked about his plans to attend college and study engineering, while Sarah shared her artwork and stories about school. Gloria encouraged their academic pursuits and helped them with homework where needed. As months passed, Gloria became more than just a kind waitress who had fed 2 hungry children. She became their mentor, their cheerleader, and in many ways a mother figure. When Marcus struggled with a difficult math concept, Gloria would stay after her shift to help him work through problems. When Sarah felt sad about missing her grandmother, Gloria would sit with her and share stories about her own childhood. The impact of that rainy March evening extended far beyond just Marcus and Sarah. Gloria's act of kindness had inspired an entire community to look out for children in need. Mama's Kitchen became known as a place where no child would ever go hungry, and the fund that Mr. Johnson had established grew to help dozens of local families. But perhaps the most significant change was in Gloria herself. Watching Marcus and Sarah overcome their challenges with such determination and grace reminded her of the importance of education and perseverance. She began taking night classes at the local community college, working toward a degree in social work. Gloria's own daughter, Keisha, was also inspired by her mother's example. She began volunteering at the group home where Marcus and Sarah lived, helping other children with their homework and organizing recreational activities. The experience helped Keisha decide that she wanted to pursue a career in education. As the first year passed, Marcus and Sarah's situation stabilized somewhat. They